As with roads, waterways have rules and regulations that all traffic must follow. A member of our base team will run through any rules applying to the area during the induction. The Waterways Guide will also outline any regulations you'll need to be aware of. When approaching each other, the general rule of the sea is that boats pass port to port. In other words, the left-hand side of your boat is adjacent to the left-hand side of the boat you are passing. There are, however, a couple of exceptions to this rule on inland waterways. When travelling downstream, a boat always has priority and may choose to maintain its course. If the waterway is wide enough, boats travelling upstream can pass either side. It's a good idea to make a positive movement to one side or the other so that there is no confusion and the downstream boat has a clear idea of your intentions. If the water flow is negligible and there is insufficient current to visibly see which is downstream, you should check the guide so that you know who has right of way. You can overtake a boat on either side, but it is the overtaking boat's responsibility to steer clear and take avoiding action. To draw attention to the fact that you are overtaking, you can use your horn. Horn signals are illustrated in your Waterways Guide. If you are being overtaken, you should slow down and move aside to allow the overtaking boat to complete the maneuver safely. You can also use your horn to announce your presence to other waterways users. For example, as you approach a blind bend or before a tunnel. It is sometimes easy to forget that there are a couple of feet or more of boat below the water's surface, and rivers are often quite shallow near to the banks. Shallow water may be marked by a series of coloured buoys that indicate the navigable channel. These buoys are colour-coded, and the Waterway Guide for the area outlines the appropriate action to take. Locks come in a variety of types and sizes, but their principle is the same: to raise or lower the water height to allow boats to pass from one level to another. This is done using two gates or sluices which either dam or evacuate the water, allowing it to rise or fall as required. Where there's a larger vertical break in the canal, you may come across locks that are organised in chains. Boats pass through successive locks until the final lock is equalised, and passage along the canal is once again possible. The operation of locks differs from area to area and is covered in the Waterway Guide. Generally, they fall into a number of categories. Unmanned, manual or mechanical locks are very rare now. Many locks will be manned by a lock keeper, who will operate the lock mechanism for you. Depending on where you cruise, automated locks are operated by either a push button, a card, or a pole. The process is automated from there on. It's worth being aware that locks have opening times and usually close for lunch and at night, so you should plan your journey accordingly. Locks often have a light system to indicate your course of action as you approach them. Again, these differ from area to area. The Waterways Guide for your area features instructions on the type of lights you might encounter. If the lock you are approaching is not open, you should wait at least 100 metres from it to allow any boat emerging sufficient room to get underway and safely pass you. If several boats are waiting to enter a lock, each one should enter in order of their arrival. Although official and commercial boats have priority over leisure craft and should be allowed through first. When you come to access a lock, if possible, you should put a crew member ashore prior to entering the lock to help guide the boat in and to secure mooring lines. Enter the lock slowly. Remember to stop well clear of the gates, as water can come in or out at a high rate. Remember too that when securing the boat, the water will be rising or falling, so you should take account of the boat's vertical movement. Never tie the ropes around the cleats in the locks. Simply pass the rope around the cleat or bollard and hold on to the rope to steady the boat as it rises or falls. Some very deep locks have bars set into the walls. Mooring lines can be slipped around these bars and fed back to the boat. On others, there may be bollards to slip a rope around. Once all the boats in the lock are secured, the gates are closed. Water will either drain from the lock until it drops to the level of the water on the other side, or fill the lock from the higher water outside the gate if you are going up. As the level changes, crew members should adjust the tension of the lines to hold the boat in position. Only once the levels are totally equalized will the gates be opened. Locks are often quite narrow, particularly near the gates, so crew members can help guide the boat using the boat hook. When you're ready to get underway, you can release the mooring lines and slowly exit the lock.